What's up, y'all? This is CGT podcast, episode 20. Wait, is it episode 20? Either it's 20 or 21. Either way, that's exactly how it feels in today's time because it is 2021. And yeah, let's start this off. We already know what type of energy I want to talk about in today's world because it's something that, everybody needs to be paying attention to. Uh, we all have special abilities and powers, and I feel like one of mine is definitely strategies and stuff like that. And in order to have a good strategy, you have to be aware of what's going on in your environment, not only locally but also globally. So, in today's news, well, not today, but a couple of days ago, Joe Biden decided to bomb Syria. He decided to bomb Syria. And I mean, if we really look into it, we'll recognize that they never stopped bombing. I mean, striking Syria is what they call it. They never stopped striking Syria. So if if technically the war on terror has been going on since like 2001, I think, and the progress we've made has been very sloppy, and it's actually been no progress at all because it was never meant to be. There was never no objective reasoning there. And of course, you got the objective reasoning, and it came out with Donald Trump where he started saying stuff like, it's all about the oil, it's all about the money, it's all about power, it's all about control. Being very direct as a leader, kind of like the white people would see this man as Alexander the Great. That type of energy, that's the type of energy that they like. You get what I'm saying? So Joe Biden, he has to follow that up. I'm not saying he wasn't a part of even starting the war because he was one of the senators when the fucking war started and the fucking quote unquote war on terror. He was one of the main supporters of it. And many people in the Democratic Party, Republican Party, and what people who are not even fucking politicians anymore, mostly, all those people who are affiliated with the government, including the FBI, the CIA, and all these. Like in the last episode before I interviewed Daisy, I broke down the president's cabinet. And one of the reasons why I broke down the president's cabinet was because I wanted everybody to see the positions and who's being held responsible for what's happening today. And then once you know these positions today, you can go back over time and then you can see how they were formed, but also, you feel me, the people who were responsible for certain shit that happened in the past at that and how it led to today. Considering the fact that, once again, we've been at war for 20 something years now. We've been at war for a majority of my life fighting terrorism. And when you're young and you grow up in America, it's kind of like you're trained to be ignorant about it because there's so much media. The mainstream media basically works for the military-industrial complex, and not only the military-industrial complex, but pretty much anybody that fucking pays them off. Honestly, anybody who's a billionaire who can give more billions to another billionaire, like people who own New York Post, like people who own Reuters, like people who own the BBC, like people who own USA Today, like people who own all of these channels that you see on TV and the networks. They can easily become bigger and better billionaires if the people who have more billions than them say, hey, I want to influence the masses. That's all I got. That's all it takes. And there's three main ways of doing it. Either publicly through the politicians that are in power today. You can fund them, you can lobby with them. Or if not necessarily through that, You can, if you don't have that type of power, you can get to the people below them, their cabinet. I mean, not even below really, because if you really think about it, a lot of these official government entities, quote unquote, like the CIA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the NSA, the National Security Agency, so many different names for so many different things. And then supposedly these people have positions and chairs and shit like that, like chairmans and directors and, presidents, vice presidents and shit like that, secretaries. So with that being said, as these seats change, we're supposed to, as citizens, we're supposed to be looking at this shit, monitoring it, because that's the only way we can hold people accountable. Because they be trying to hold us accountable when 9 times out of 10 we haven't did shit. You got people in jail for silly shit, basically. When there's people out here actually doing very corrupt shit, and that's what we gonna get into later on in the video. But this mainly in the video, we're gonna be talking about 3 things. We're gonna be talking about Biden, Syria. Matter of fact, I ain't even gonna tell y'all, bro. Y'all just gotta watch this shit. All right, we're gonna hop right into it. I respect oh shit, I'm tripping. I can't do that. Let me do the share screen. There we go. Share. All right, where I'm at. They're gonna pop me up. Where am I? There I go. All right, I see me now. So let me make me a little bit bigger. All right. Now my sister Tulsi Gabbard, my sister Tulsi Gabbard dropped a video today. Just so happened while I was about to make a video on this subject. And there's certain news outlets that I fuck with and trust, and I'll be trying to obviously show that to y'all on here and support the brothers and sisters and the politicians and the people. I mean, not the politicians, but the human beings out there on foot and grassroots movements that's actually trying to, you feel me, bring awareness. I'm not gonna say make change, just bring awareness. Okay? So now this is Tulsi Gabbard. She's like, you can see the title right here. It says the Biden administration using the U.S. military to illegally occupy northeast Syria. So before we even get into that, we're gonna go over here to this video. We're gonna go to this article. It says Biden tells Congress Syria strikes are consistent with the U.S. right to self-defense. Self-defense for what though? Because considering the fact that it was illegal for y'all the motherfuckers to even be there in the first place by quote unquote international law, which is obviously looking pathetic as fuck right now. Let's be real. They not holding nobody accountable, and who can really rely on, you feel me, international law. That's why the United States and basically all dominant countries in the world today, they are the real force. Okay, people who are making international law, if they make a law and it's broken by people who are in these countries who have billions and they're protecting their billions, you get what I'm saying? They're protecting their billions when they saying the strikes are consistent with U.S. rights to self-defense. We're going to go to this article later, but I just want y'all to see the contradiction already before we even really get into it. Now, here goes Tulsi. Let me see.
I am glad to hear that some of my former colleagues in Congress are speaking out against the recent unconstitutional airstrikes in Syria. But they're ignoring the bigger issue, the regime change war.
We're going to start it over. Move me over here. Hold on right quick, everybody. Hold on right quick,
The United States continues.
Right quick. Hold on right quick, everybody. There we go. There we go. Had to put it on fully. Start it over. Alright, I want y'all to absorb this.
I am glad to hear that some of my former
CGT
colleagues
podcast.
in Congress are speaking out against the recent unconstitutional airstrikes in Syria. But they're ignoring the bigger issue. The regime change war the United States continues to wage in Syria using Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, HTS terrorists as our proxy ground force, and who now occupy and control the city of Idlib, imposing Sharia law and cleansing the area of most Christians and religious minorities. The Biden administration continues to use our military to illegally occupy northeastern Syria to, quote, take the oil, as Trump so crassly but honestly put it, violating international law. A modern-day siege of draconian embargo and sanctions, similar to what the Saudi-U.S. alliance employed in Yemen, is causing death and suffering.
See, I'm gonna slow it down right there. Wait, can I go back? I'm gonna go back. She said something. She said like they're imposing in Yemen because y'all gotta understand, bro. It's not just Syria, bro. Like just last month, I think, if not last month, January, they were already like before this man even officially got in office, they were already talking about Yemen and shit. And then if you go back to the previous videos, you already see that. You feel me? The FBI director at the time, before he left office, they was talking about, oh yeah, Iran is working. I mean, Iran is working with Iraq and shit, and they trying to. And I'm like, bro, do you even fucking, bro? Everybody knows that was bullshit. So they moved on to Yemen, and then now they moving on to Syria to spark everything back up because the Biden and the Barack Obama and Joe Biden's whole campaign, whole program was a continuation of George Bush's. That's it. That's it. So let me
International law.
She's saying some real shit. You get what I'm saying? And she's saying it fast because she's used to this shit.
A modern-day siege of draconian embargo and sanctions, similar to what the Saudi-U.S. alliance employed in Yemen, is causing death and suffering for millions of innocent Syrians, depriving them of things like food, medicine, clean water, energy, warmth, and making it impossible for the Syrian people to try to begin to rebuild their war-torn country.
Okay. Let me get out of there. They trying to show it to ESPN type shit. All right. So next, I got another source. Is this the same video? Oh no, this next video. Next, I got another source. Right. I got, you feel me? My reliable Syrian source. My reliable, lovely, intelligent brother, Richard. Yeah. Let me just show you what he got to say.
People are starving. They can't pay their rent. You got millions of Americans that are uninsured. They got no health care. They lost their jobs. Where the fuck are the checks? Oh, I know. They went to Raytheon.
So he just said something. He said millions of Americans. So not only are we talking about, in the last video, we got to piece this together. In the last video, Tosi was talking about how not only is America striking them with airstrikes and drones and shit like that, but and when they're claiming that, you feel me, because they're claiming that they're doing it because of terrorism, and self-defense, mind you, they're also still continuing the same sanctions that are starving millions of kids and people and working class adults who can actually give something to the world, grow up and give something to the world. Not only can they grow up and give something to the world, but the adults who are already living there and running their society as they see fit, as the best they can, to just literally make them starve. Because if you go look at the map, you gotta look at the map where Syria is at. You get what I'm saying? Like it's it's like, in a way, it's only so much they could do because they're surrounded by other countries who are at war also. So trying to get resources in and out of war zones alone can cause strain. But not only that, but you're already saying you're not even gonna fucking you're going not only that, you're gonna make sure that they don't get that shit. You're gonna actually block certain pathways. You're gonna actually cut off certain deals that were making people money in America, even if it was in fishy ways or if not. It was making people money in America. It was making people money over there too. But since they're doing that type of shit, you have to go through loops and boundaries and you stupid shit. Not saying that that's necessary, but now in this video, he's bringing it back around and say, "Oh yeah, not only that, you're doing it at a time where people are in very bad the American economy is in a bad situation financially. Economy is in a bad situation. You get what I'm saying? So these niggas out here, like you said, instead of giving people like their ethic is this. I would rather give money to go fund my sons and my, you feel me, great nephew, sons, cousins and shit. I'd rather go give that money to them to go over there to fund them to murder people and make sure that they don't get food and resources that they naturally, or you feel me, over time through some type of process would get. We're going to make sure that they don't get that shit because we need our sons and our cousins and our brothers and our society and shit to get that money. We support them doing something instead of feeding these poor people and helping these poor people start businesses and helping businesses sustain themselves. Instead of doing that, we're going to vampire everybody's energy and then give everything to these certain companies and allow them to do certain shit, right? And one of these companies, like you said, is Raytheon.
Starving, they can't pay their rent. You got millions of Americans that are uninsured. They got no health care. They lost their jobs. Where the fuck are the checks? Oh, I know. They went to Raytheon so they could bomb my country. Thank God the cabinet is diverse. I'm so happy that a rainbow cabinet just bombed my country. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Liberals, thank you. You want to talk about diversity? There's nothing diverse about Joe Biden's cabinet. These people are imperialist scum. These people serve corporations. They're fucking droids. It's a continuation of every other administration before it. They support the corporations. They support the wars. They screw over the working class. That's not diversity. That's a continuation of the same old shit with a different mask. Talk about, oh my God, Joe Biden, he's the lesser of two evils. He's going to be shitty, but not as bad as Trump. Well, how is he not as bad as Trump? This is exactly the same as Trump. He's keeping sanctions on Syria, right? Brutal sanctions that are starving civilians, that have crippled the economy, that have destroyed the lira, the Syrian pound. He's continuing to steal oil in northeastern Syria. Now he's bombing Syria just like Trump. Literally no fucking difference. How can you sit there and tell me that Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils? It's the exact same evil. The kids are still in the goddamn cages. They just have air conditioning now and you know, fancier containers to put them in. They're still cages. You haven't gotten your stimulus check. He scammed you. He's not going to give you a $15 minimum wage. How can you sit there as a rational adult and tell me that this guy is any better? It's okay, right? Because Donald Trump is gone. The orange shooter man is gone. Now we can have pink bombs. We can have, you know, rainbow colored drones, right? Here we go again. Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition Death Cult. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Go back to brunch. Everything is okay. The kids are still in cages, right? You're not going to get your student debt canceled. You're not going to get a $15.
He knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. Many people knew this was going to happen. America, in my opinion, is not surprised right now. Nobody in America is surprised right now. And that's the whole reason why so many people are quiet when these news stations, who are all also working for fucking, they're paid off basically, like I said earlier, make bold statement. Like this nigga said, if I go back to the shit that I was saying during the campaign, bro, it was just stupid. And it's just crazy that they get people that riled up, and not only riled up, but they get people so hateful towards each other all over elections, right? And then the elections are an illusion because the system is not going to change at the radical way that it needs to, because the system is centered around old methods, in the public. But it's towards the public eye, basically. What I'm trying to say is this: towards the public eye, you could see the shit that we doing, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, Joe Biden bombed Syria. I'm disappointed in him." But in reality, the old way of doing it would have been, "Oh yeah, Joe Biden bombed fucking Syria. That's some bullshit. We're not gonna support Joe Biden. We're not gonna support." Matter of fact, the old way of doing it is Joe Biden would have never, bitch ass would have never fucking been in office, bro. You feel me? And especially if the technology that we have today, with the technology that we have today, they could take advantage of people's emotions, and they can trace your emotions, they can trace your thoughts, they can trace your beliefs, all that shit. And they're using it against us. And the way that they're using it against us is with this political shit, is with this shit to get people emotionally riled up at certain times and then crash all their dreams over time, slowly but surely, until it's nothing left for them almost, and then get them a whole bunch of rile up sauce again. And one of the ways they break you down over time is with this war shit, because that's how they keep. That's how they're like. It's a new. They have new methods of maintaining the old system. That's what I wanted to say. So the mainstream media definitely supports this shit 100%. The mainstream media supports pretty much everything Joe Biden does. So with that being said, now you understand the villain hero concept. In the mainstream media, they try to use that shit against you with the Donald Trump shit, and then now they got the Joe Biden shit. Like after Joe Biden tries to get this nigga Donald Trump, quote unquote, whatever the fuck that shit is. I forgot the name of the fucking word. Cause it's not even fucking important, impeached. But they try to get this nigga impeached, right? They try to get Donald Trump impeached. And with that being said, Joe Biden, second thing to do, instead of helping people once again, which he would campaign the whole time, which he helped people. Let me get this straight. He helped people, but it wasn't the poor people. It wasn't the masses of people. It was the people who are going to dedicate their lives, dedicate their fucking lives to maintaining the old system using new methods. The new methods, they can actually, you feel me, keep niggas, they can keep people, poor people, in the psychological thrill of being um accepting pretty much of the fact that everything that they work for will be stolen from them over time. And everything that they were told was a lie, and it will eventually switch up over time. And a combination of these two things will either in your lifetime make you seem crazy by the end of your fucking lifetime, or when people look back at this fucking day and time in this society, they will always feel like they could do better. And the reason that is because of the fact that that's the way the system is drawn out. President Joe Biden on Saturday told Congress that the airstrikes he ordered in Syria this week were consistent with the U.S. right to self-defense, as members of his own party called for more transparency about why military actions were taken without congressional authorization. So let's get this straight. So people in your own party are saying, "What the fuck, nigga? You're not even following the Constitution. Do you know the Constitution, nigga? You're not supposed to go to war with. You're not supposed to strike a country or do shit without the Congress fucking saying you could do that shit. You get what I'm saying? So him even doing that shit by executive order is kind of bold, considering he won't cancel the student loan debt with executive order. He won't do shit like that. He won't he won't give people this $2,000 check with the executive order. He won't he won't give women the right to fucking get paid for being fucking at home taking care of kids. And that be seen as a social norm because they deserve it. That's not an executive order. None of that shit will ever be an executive order of his. The executive order was bombing fucking Syria. Because it was a right to. You don't have a right to sit at home and take care of your kids in a fucking pandemic. You feel me? Quote unquote a pandemic. You don't have the right to do that. You don't have the right to do that. And all the money that they've been taking in from your ass over time and fucking assets they've been taking from you over time that will never lose fucking value, no matter how much fucking debt they tell you the fucking country is in. It will never fucking lose value. The assets that they fucking stole. You telling me that is not worth taking care of? Was worth taking care of, and more. It's in a more fast, get to it type of pace. Is bombing Syria, and then the Congress they feel offended. They like, damn, bro. Like I thought we was in this together, Joe. Joe sleep, bro. Joe sleep at the wheel, y'all. Whoever voted for this man, I mean, let's be real, bro. Let's be real. What this nigga, bro? So, whoever voted for this man is doing. I bet they're very pleased already. I mean, you got to give people time to get in the seat, get used to the wheel. You ain't got to judge them at the first. You feel me? When I first started driving, I wasn't perfect either. Joe Biden, he done been in the back seat. He done been in the passenger seat. This is the first time in the main seat. Get a man a little time, might be. You feel me? That's what the people who voted for, you feel me, my partner, Joe Biden. God damn. I started itching when I said that nigga was my partner and shit. That's not my partner, my bad. As members of his own party called for more transparency of why military action was taken without congressional authorization. Wow. He said the United States took this action pursuant to the United States the United States took this action pursuant to the United States inherent right of self-defense, as reflected in Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. So basically, Biden wrote in a letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and President pro tempore Senate Patrick Leahy. Biden ordered airstrikes Thursday against facilities in eastern Syria that the Pentagon says are used by Iranian-backed militias. Okay, what? What the fuck? Let's get this straight, bro. We are not at war with Iran, my nigga. Even if we were at war with Iran, my nigga, just because you suspect that they have Iranian-backed militia there, don't give you the right to fucking airstrike that shit. You feel me? How is that self-defensive? What are you doing there? Why are you there in the first place? You get what I'm saying? I didn't know that, you feel me, we were at war with Iran as a country. Because if that's actually quote for quote what they said, that's kind of sloppy already. They think niggas can't read? The Defense Department said multiple facilities were destroyed at border control point and there were casualties, but did not provide any additional information. Those strikes came in response to February 15th attack in which rockets hit Erbil International Airport, which hosts a coalition military base in northern Iraq. The attack killed a civilian contractor with the U.S.-led military coalition and injured several others, including an American service member. I directed this military action to protect and defend our personnel and our partners against these attacks and future such attacks, Biden wrote in his letter Saturday. So you're basically trying to get these motherfuckers to submit. You could have said that, bro. I bet the Republicans would have, hey, you just say that, partner. The Republicans would have been down with you. It would have been some bipartisan union type shit. It would have been some bipartisan union and everything would have been good. Unity. You could have just said that off rip and they would have fucked with you. You could have said, yeah, shit. They fucking with our shit. They fucking with the territory that we took from them. They fucking with the colony that we're trying to colonize that land. And they fucking with it. That's not cool. We're making money off of that shit. And if they get involved and their country has to benefit off of us making money off of that shit, that means we're not gonna make as much money. Nigga, I ain't going for that. Joe Biden don't want his partners to... Hey, why would Joe Biden want his partners to miss out on some bread, bro? Do you want your partners to miss out on some bread? Do you want your partners to miss out on some bread, bro? Why would Joe Biden want his partners to miss out on some bread, bro? Let's be real. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to my partner video, Jake Tran.
That's one firearm for every 12 people on the planet. The only question is...
Wait. I got to start from the top.
There are over 550 million firearms in worldwide circulation. That's one firearm for every 12 people on the planet. The only question is, how do we arm the other 11?
Step number 1. Open up a bank or manufacture war materials like weapons, raw materials, soldiers, or services. Step number 2. Don't just pray for war, lobby for war. Push your politician friends for more conflict. Step number 3. Support both sides of the war so that you come out on top no matter who wins. Step number 4. Sit back, relax, and bask in all that sweet cash flow as innocent men, women, and children perish. War is a racket. It always has been. It's possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, and surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. There's something special about war. For people who live in first world countries, it may seem like a far-off concept that would never happen here. And yet, over the past 3,400 years of human history, we've spent only 268 of them in peace. But the business of war goes much further back than that, with the first one ever recorded back in 2700 BCE in Mesopotamia. This makes the industry of war have a longer track record than the information industry, education, and banking combined, along with many others. War is the ultimate discipline of any government. War is the government what life and death is to humans. If nations can meet the challenge of war, they'll survive. If they can't, they'll perish. War can also be looked at as a racket, but unlike your small-time mafia gangster asking for his protection money or his VIG...
Do you even know what VIG means?
It's the US Air Force dropping a bomb on your roof. In fact, this racket is so profitable that at least 21,000 new millionaires and billionaires were made in just the US alone during World War I. And that's in early 1900s money. And it's because of these life or death scenarios and these opportunities for massive profits that incentivizes governments to willingly forget about its laws, to forget about the prosperity of its citizens, the prosperity of its economy, to make sure that above all else, its military is well funded, well equipped, and well trained. That means if you can help governments in their primal act of survival to remain in power by offering raw materials, weapons, soldiers, services to soldiers, you're gonna be the government's best friend. And they'll be more than happy to not only pay for your products with money that they have, but they'll borrow more money and even create it out of thin air via their central banks to make sure that they live. And because a government's first concern is survival, they're not all that concerned about getting the best deal. That means you can easily overcharge for your products.
It was all.
So already, okay, we got the basics, right? This is why Joe Biden don't want his friends to miss out on no fucking money, bruh. I don't want my friends missing out on money. You feel me? Even though Joe Biden would throw and Joe and Harris, you feel me? Biden and Harris would throw a nigga in jail quicker than peanut butter would slide with jelly. Then turn around and finesse a nigga. You feel me? That's the world. That's the world. Okay? Don't let nobody else tell you something else. That is the fucking world. Okay, I don't even like saying shit like that, but let somebody tell you something else. But they gonna be fucking, if they tell you something else, it better be aligned with what the fuck I just said. No matter what. And we gotta do something about that shit.
All a scam. Halliburton was charging $45 for a six-pack can of like Coke or Pepsi. Halliburton charged the government $100 for every bag of clothes they washed.
The reason your hair is
And
thinning has been your
the crazy
shampoo.
thing, they're
No
talking
matter
about
what
being
hair
in,
growth
it's kind of like
products
being in
you
prison.
use,
So
your thinning hair
the
is an
prison and the
improvement.
war
I think it's
shit
down
is
to your
connected
genes.
to each other.
The real problem
You know what
might
I'm
be
saying?
something else. The truth is,
All
even if
to
you wash your
maintain
hair
power,
every day, this is
obviously.
what your scalp looks like.
Like they said. When you were at war,
1929 was the
that
worst
shit ain't
economic
free,
depression
basically.
in modern history. It saw banks fail, soup lines, crippling unemployment, and a decline in worldwide GDP by over 15%. For context, the 2008 mortgage crisis and the ensuing recession caused a drop in worldwide GDP of just 1%. So yeah, this was bad. It was also marred by a lot of bad policies because it was a time when modern economies, as we know them today, had only really just begun operating, and nobody knew how to drive them just yet. The Great Depression and all the theories surrounding it deserve a video all of their own, which will be coming out in the next few weeks. But what I want to focus on for today is what put an end to the economic decline. Students of history will probably say, well, this is so simple. It was World War II. And this kind of makes sense on paper. World War II, all over the world, saw factories built, literal armies of people employed, infrastructure projects funded, and governments throw budgets to the side and effectively create the biggest stimulus ever, all in the name of winning the war. The economics of war are just
People he just said, fam. So I think in my second and third video I'll drop shit like this, bro. But we gonna dive into it more because I'm consistent. I'm a fucking Taurus, and I gotta get. I mean, people learn through consistency. So with that being said, the war is good for the economy. So every time there's a stimulus, you can go have it. You need a stimulate. You need to stimulate that pussy. You need to stimulate that. You feel me? Stimulate that economy. Stimulate that economy. You feel me? That's what you got to do. Stimulate the economy, bro. So you send out a stimulus package. Just like when you were at war, what they send you a what type of package? And when you're in prison, all I gotta say is this: it's all aligned for a reason, and it's a you feel me? It's a reason, and the money system built is actually in your favor, but the people who own the assets in that manipulate them manipulate the transfer of them losing that over time. Naturally, over time, people gain power and lose it, right? So if I'm over time losing my riches, then why not instigate a fucking war, bro? So that even though my value is the same, I fuck up the world around me and then I make it lose its value. And now, comparatively, I'm still the richest. I'm still the smartest. I'm still the most powerful.
Just as true today as they were back in the 1940s. The United States is the largest economy in the world, which also has the largest military budget in the world. Its largest employer is Walmart, and then it's the armed forces. Military policy, in a sense, is as intertwined with economic policy as income tax and interest rates. But this begs the question, is war actually good for the economy? If it worked in the 1940s, what's to stop it working now? Well, as always, let's start from the very, very beginning with how defence spending actually helps an economy. When governments are assessing the health and prosperity of an economy, they will look at a few key indicators. Things like GDP figures, growth rates, inflation, unemployment, and even major share market prices are all good indicators of the overall health of a nation. Because politics is politics, it often becomes a top priority of governments to make these figures look as good as possible, even if the reality is a little bit less pretty. Unemployment, for example, is often a big ticket item that directly impacts elections. Now, the correct way to lower unemployment rates is to ensure that the economy is growing at a healthy rate in line with or exceeding population growth, and that a healthy service sector is maintained to employ lots and lots of people in good paying jobs.
Sound like some soldier.
Now, let's say you are a less than totally honest world leader coming up to an election with poor employment figures. What do you do? Well, a big loophole in this particular indicator is that the definition of employment is any individual working for at least 1 hour per week. So yeah, if you are working one 1 hour shift at a McDonald's a week, guess what? You are employed. Lucky you. An employer like McDonald's can employ far more people working casual rosters than it can employ full-time employees, even if the net result is the same amount of hours. The side effect of this is that suddenly this fast food chain isn't employing 10 people, it's employing 30 people on a variable roster. On a nationwide level, this actually looks great for unemployment figures, but this is why economic indicators all need to be taken with a grain of salt. The case of underemployment, that is, workers who are employed but are actively seeking more hours, is a huge issue in most modern economies today. Now, there are also other ways around this whole issue to make your unemployment figures look better. For example, you can change the definition of unemployment to not include certain types of people, like students. Or you can just employ more people in the government. There are lots of government agencies that need good employees, of course. Teachers, infrastructure workers, parks and recreation managers. But of course, a big one is the military. Military recruitment in a lot of countries is intense and sometimes even mandatory. Normally, this is not because the military is desperately lacking personnel, but rather because the armed forces are a great opportunity for young men and women to not only achieve gainful employment, but also normally to obtain some kind of skill or training. The military is a giant form of welfare that employs hundreds of thousands of young men and women that would otherwise have to find employment in increasingly automated and outsourced entry-level jobs. So this sounds like a good thing overall. The extra benefit, of course, is that you have a strong and well-manned military to ensure that your nation's interests are protected at home and abroad, and this is all true. The issue is, though, there are probably much better ways to spend that money to achieve the same outcome.
I've always
Dead
loved sci-fi.
money. Dead Money is a good
The idea
title
of
for
being
that.
right on the edge of discovery.
Because people,
frontiers
it's not
of
funny,
space.
but
And
it's the
doing
psychology
exploration
that they
allows me
use.
to do more
It's
of
like
that
you've been
stuff.
studying that shit, kind of. You feel me?
You get to use cloak.
Automation is inevitable
Oh
and it's
fuck!
coming
What the
to
fuck
you.
happened, dude?
Steel made bronze obsolete, the internal combustion engine made steam power obsolete.
Hold on, y'all. I gotta go back.
1929 was the worst economic depression in modern history. It saw banks fail. When governments are assessing the health and prosperity of an economy, they will look at a few key indicators.
That's one firearm.
All right, back to this.
Especially with the big wars, we're talking 20%, or they'll survive. If they can't, they'll perish. War can also be looked at as a racket, but unlike your small-time mafia gangster asking for his protection money or his VIG,
Do you even know what VIG means?
it's the US Air Force dropping a bomb on your roof. In fact, this economy to make sure that above all else, it's
Already seen
most
this.
privatized war in history
Okay, right here.
before the war. And in 1916,
Okay, go back.
company at the same time. Ooh, especially with the big wars, we're talking 20%, 60%, 100%, 300%, 800%. The sky is the limit. Take DuPont, for example, during World War I. During the wartime years, their profits increased by over 950%. Or take the Central Leather Company at the same time. During the 3 years before the war, profits were around $3.5 million. Not too bad. In 1916 alone, $15 million. A very small increase of, 1,300%? Or take even less war-oriented companies like the American Sugar Refining Company. They averaged $2 million a year before the war, and in 1916, $6 million. Now you may be thinking to yourself, but Jake, that was the Great War. Certainly war profits can't be that insane today without another world war, can it? And yeah, you're right, but they're still pretty damn juicy. During the Iraq War, often called the most privatized war in history, KBR, one of the main logistics supplier contractors for the US, we're talking like food, facilities, etc., got a whopping $39.5 billion in Iraq-related contracts, with Agility Logistics and the Kuwait Petroleum Corp falling behind in second with a measly $13.5 billion in contracts. Now those numbers are huge, but what does that mean for you if you were running one of these companies? Well, KBR's parent company, Halliburton CEO, was paid a nice $42.6 million in 2004. What about Titan and Khaki, the two companies that provided the US with interrogators that were part of the infamous Abu Ghraib prisoner torture case? Khaki CEO made a fairly decent $22.2 million in 2004. And Titan, he takes the crown with a $47.2 million income in both 2004 and 5. Revenue in the tens of billions, salaries in the tens of millions. I don't know about you guys, but I am 100% willing to help bomb some innocent villages for that kind of money. I'm definitely getting demonetized for this. But at the end of the day, it's not really the government that's paying you all these juicy profits. No. It's the citizens, it's the plebs like you and I that foot the bill.
Hollywood's most famous movie stars leave the film capital to help the government sell war bonds.
The Pentagon audit released last night that found the company is overcharging taxpayers. It is your money that's being used.
Through taxes and through this thing called inflation, where the government doesn't want to anger us too much by raising taxes too high to pay for all this stuff, so they just print more money. That way they get the stuff that they want by taxing us in a sneakier fashion. So at this point, you've completed step 1. You have a company that can provide war materials to the government. So what's next in our journey to becoming a war profiteer? During World War II, automakers were known as the arsenal of democracy because they were able to transform their production lines to make airplanes, tanks, and trucks. A very patriotic act. Not so patriotic was when US troops invaded Europe to find that the enemy were also driving vehicles made by Ford and Opel, whose parent company was GM. The Washington Post reported that GM was an integral part of the German war effort. The Nazis could have invaded Poland without the Swiss banks. They could not have done it without GM. Ford and GM definitely weren't alone though. Chase Manhattan were especially sinister, with a representative in Paris helping the Nazis seize the assets of at least 100 Jewish people that the Nazis thought were really worth pursuing. Other banks committed similar acts as well. Or take the Gulf War, for example, where it was found that businesses and governments in at least 26 different countries sold weapons to both sides during the Iran-Iraq War. Or even more recently, Halliburton had a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands that was selling around $40 million a year in oil field services to the Iranian government. What do all of these companies have in common? They have no loyalty to their home country, but it's not just these particular companies. If you look throughout history, funding and supplying the enemy is all in a day's work as a war profiteer. It's nothing personal. See, in the war industry, your customers are all the governments of the world. Those are the people that you're loyal to, not just one of them in your customer pool. Because if you limit yourself to just your home country, not only are you basing all of your revenue off of just that one nation, but you're leaving so much money on the table. So what if you're an American company and your bullets end up being used on US soldiers? Relax, they're replaceable. The military has recruitment on lockdown.
My point, you shoot. What this does is
So you get the
prove once
point.
again.
The profit of war. You get what I'm saying? So that's one of their main old methods right there. And they're trying to transform right now back to the shit that they was doing back in the 50s and 60s. And one of the reasons why they're dropping, you feel me, a whole bunch of movies and shit like that is because damn it, wrong thing. Let me go back to this. This shit tripping, bro.